please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Storyboard. This is Shibani Gharat. Rob Norman, director Zeotap, feels that trust is becoming increasingly important, but it is also incredibly undermined. In this conversation that he had with Storyboard editor Anant Rangaswamy, he speaks to us about how trust is very hard to earn, hence the future of branding is going to be very bright. Let's take a look at this chat to understand how can brands build trust in a world that is so democratized yet corrupted.
Inventing Sophia.
What do you think should be required for robot citizenship?
So Rob, unplanned,
Yes.
provoked by something you said just now. What's the correlation between brand and trust today? And what are the implications of that correlation?
It seems that trust is becoming incredibly important in some dimensions, but incredibly undermined in other dimensions. So if you look at all of the recent stories about bot farms and trolls on Twitter and Facebook and the general undermining of trust in the truth and in fact, and then you think about the idea of brands being in this sort of perfectly democratized and nowhere to hide world, but you could argue that if brands can maintain their position and increase their position as a proxy for trust almost for consumers, then the future of branding is very important. And if the future of branding is important, then the future of advertising by extension is important.
Right. So how easy is it in today's complex marketplace, call it what you want, to maintain that trust?
Well, I think we all know that trust is something that's very hard to earn and very easy to lose. And I think every business is looking in so many ways now. We've had so many movements. We've had racial equality followed by gender equality. We'll soon be having movements around income equality. We're having movements around harassment. We're having movements around trust, movements around violence and so forth. And it becomes increasingly clear that these are not externalities for corporate America and corporate India and corporate the world. Every one of these things is taking place outside of their worlds, actually taking place inside their worlds too. So I think there's a lot of self-reflection going on inside advertising businesses, media businesses, and manufacturing business, saying what type of company are we, what do we stand for, and what do we mean in a world where people are seeing that social activism can change things very quickly. And what you would hope to do is to think about using those same forces that can undermine trust and look at how you can turn those to your advantage to create and maintain trust.
Right. We've seen at Cannes in the last few years, a lot of, shall we say, movements have won great awards, you know?
Yeah.
So-called movements. Now, is it time now for real movements and brands to take very hard positions on issues that really matter to society?
I think it's very difficult. I think you need to think about universality. So as you can take a position broadly about do you think it's right or wrong that children get killed at school, it's relatively easy to take that position. Right. Do you believe it's right or wrong for lead to be in drinking water? It's quite easy to take on those positions. Do you believe that excessive packaging is a good thing or a bad thing, or consumption of fossil fuels is a good thing?
Binary, yeah.
So those, well, they're binary and understanding the things you can take a position about. But the question is exactly where do you take your position in that? Because you have to think about all of your stakeholders. That includes your people and your shareholders and many others. So you have to think about your position, but you also have to think about whether or not it's legitimate for you to play in that space. So it's incredibly legitimate, for example, for a P&G and Unilever to say that we are going to attempt to go carbon neutral by cutting our inputs and our use of plastics in manufacturing by X in such a period of time. And that's an entirely entirely relevant business for Unilever to be in, or P&G. Now, it's an interesting question that says that Unilever can Unilever legitimately take a position in the gun lobby question? Because I don't know if they have a relationship with the NR anyway. Maybe not. Maybe that's harder. So I think that you can believe in many things, but you would choose with care the things that you would activate against, and within that find a context that's especially relevant.
Not seen this 20 years ago, basically today, the rate at which a movement picks up.
Yeah.
You know, Parkland is a fantastic example. 24 hours, it was a movement.
Yes.
And with no real owner of the movement, no real leader of the movement, is that something we have to get used to seeing?
Well, I think we need to conjoin two things. I think you need to conjoin the speed at which a movement comes into being and the amount of time it lasts. Right. Sure. And so we've got an interesting situation. So there's three currently. So we've got the gun safety movement with Parkland. We've had Me Too with sexual harassment. We've also had It's Time with sexual harassment. In the advertising business, we've got See Her, which is about positive imaging of women in advertising and programming. And what I think is more important is, like everything else in marketing, and you talk to the marketers here at Stream, and people will tell you that speed is only valuable if it comes with scale and durability. And because that's what business is about. And I think that the scale and durability of Parkland and Me Too and It's Time and See Her and all of the others will be the things that tell you that. But also, if you work in the advertising business all your life, as I have done, you also know the very rapid build of reach is sometimes a very good precursor to something that's durable and scalable. And what we've seen with Parkland is a very rapid build of reach. It's tragic that it takes those circumstances for that to happen. So
is it going to be in the era of high-quality trend spotters who advise brands on, where something is and what part of a curve, what point of a curve it is?
I think that what will happen is that so many good things happen in business when businesses truly analyze themselves. And so if you're in big food, for example, and you think about what you do in big food and you realize that you have a significant contribution to health and nutrition of people and delivering it in the right way. So if you're Nestle, you realize that a long-term plan to reduce the sugar content in Maggi, for example, or the salt content, the salt content in Maggi is generally a good thing to do. And so what you try and do is you try and work on the science of flavor, and you try and work on the performance of the goods, and you do the right thing. And the more that you look inside yourself and say, it's our goal to do the right thing, the more stories you will find that you can, and I like the idea of story finding inside an enterprise in your behavior rather than just storytelling. But if you can find stories out of authentic behavior that you've done for the right thing, the ability of that to give you stories to then tell is very high. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that don't need trend spotters to tell them that.
So, Rob, you've got out of the business officially, it seems, out of WPP, I'm sorry, out of Group M, really. So, have you done the right thing? We spoke of the right thing just now. Have you done the right thing?
So I think that there's three questions to answer. One, was it the right time for me? Yes, I think so, because I would have regretted not finding out if there were other things that I were interested in. Yep. Was it the right time for Group M? I think it was, because I'm staying as involved with them to an extent on some big issues as I think they would like me to be. And it's a good time for young generals. I've said that before. And I remain a believer in marketing. I remain a believer in the media services industry and the marketing services industry. And I'm now very interested in people that have got businesses that they're building that involve new and valuable applications of data, new and innovative ways of creating engagement and brand trust, if you like, and new and innovative ways of the creation and distribution of content given the fractured nature of the ecosystem we live in. And I think that sometimes you have to have the freedom to do that having a full-time job for a large enterprise doesn't let you have. And so, as inevitably happens in these situations, I'm working twice as hard for half the money.
Fantastic. Cheers and thank you for talking to me.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Last year, Mindshare announced its intention to place its business unit FAST, short for Future Adaptive Specialist Team, at the heart of its business as a part of an ongoing transformation program. They also appointed Gautaman Ragothaman as the Global Chief Strategy Officer for FAST. We catch up with Gautaman, or G-Man as we call him, and speak to him about many things including data, measurement and the future impact of blockchain technology. Let's take a look at this chat.
Inventing Sophia.
What do you think should be required for robot citizenship?
G-Man, crazy conversations about blockchain.
Yeah.
What is happening on blockchain? Crazy conversations about ad avoidance.
Right.
Crazy conversations about 1,000 things that marketers read in the headlines. They don't know how to react. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know whether it's a today's danger or a danger 5 years ago. So let's start with blockchain. I mean, should I be bothered? Should a marketer be bothered?
Most definitely, yes, yeah. The reason is, I think some of these things, we underestimate when it is coming.
Right.
And sometimes you overestimate when it is going to come later as well. But blockchain as a technology is something it is coming here and now. And often what happens is we confuse blockchain with Bitcoin.
Right.
And say that, oh, it's another cryptocurrency and it is something else, it is underground or not yet recognized or illegal, and therefore it's not applicable to me. But blockchain technology is what is being used by Bitcoin, but the technology is coming.
So I'll tell you what, simplify blockchain for the viewers first.
See, blockchain, to my mind, if you have to really say, I want people to think of it as 4 elements to it. Okay, there is one which is getting the data right. It's a data set. And the data set becomes a ledger. And the ledger is cryptographically maintained through a consensus. So I just want to remember 4 words only. Data set, ledger, cryptography, and consensus.
Right.
So what happens is, if you remove the Bitcoin mindset, it's about maintaining a database in a central repository in a form that can be cryptographically locked or managed or edited. And that editing happens through a wider consensus, not by one individual.
Right.
So you say this to everybody, then it suddenly becomes more applicable to many industries. Right. Like real estate, they use it a lot now as a technology.
So expand, give me an illustration of how it's applied in real estate.
Real estate, because wherever there are multiple partners involved and who don't trust each other, you can use this. Because price of a property and what comes into the construction of the house and to the sale.
So now put this for me into data set,
yes.
cryptography, ledger.
So let's take a real estate. Okay, a data set is the cost of the house, registration charges, construction charges, society maintenance charges, various things that goes into the price of the property, right? And that has multiple players involved in it. There is a provider of furnitures inside the construction of the house, the provider of various raw materials, I can list down various things, right? So the cost component is in a data set is listed as elements that goes into the construction of the house and the sale and the cost attached to it. Each of them is being provided by multiple vendors. So, and the end consumer sees one final number, and that's being sold to a particular through a real estate builder or whatever it is, let's say. How do you know that all these prices are correct? Right. It's a claimed value from you or from me when I see the house. In a blockchain methodology, each of these data set is approved by at least multiple vendors or a consortium of people who are involved in the entire value chain, not by one claimant. So that automatically brings proof to the system.
Right.
So I can relate to that to many other industries. For example, today I read somewhere else that diamond industry is going to use this technology because the number of cuts that goes into the diamond, the authenticity of the diamond, the sourcing of the diamond, there are multiple players in the value chain. So instead of one person claiming it, the system as a record, maintaining by a ledger, by a consensus, gives much more authenticity to the whole thing.
One of the things is it's 100% consensus.
Yeah, there are various protocols.
Tending to.
That's right. There are various protocols involved in it.
Right.
Minimum, they say, is 60% consensus.
Okay, right.
So at least you should get 60% of them approving to this ledger of data sets. Right. So you take that to media in our industry, claiming of the ad, payment of the ads, whether the ad has been appeared in the right, whether ad appeared or not. Did it appear in the right context? Did it appear in the right space? And how many people saw it? Are all claims today by various partners, right? Which is why suddenly the transparency issue, which came up some time back, suddenly this is being seen as a problem, a solution to solve the problem. Which is why quite a few people are now talking about how can I use this technology to sort of build trust, or even amongst untrusted parties, how can they come together to bring some kind of transparent recording of that validation of activities. Right. So today we have them. We have monitoring agencies, we have media agencies, we have clients, we have various partners involved in it. And the digital and the technology intervention has brought in at least 16 players, I'm saying 10, 15 players. And if you look at a tech stack today when it is assembled, minimum there are 10 parties involved. Right. All of them are in their own way coming in and going out. But from a marketer's point of view, he's seeing it's a confusion of logos on a chart, right? So this can solve it. This can really bring the relevance of each one of them. Everybody plays a role in a common ledger. That's the important thing. But the problem we have today is none of us are ready in keeping our data books right.
When you say none of us, just expand that us.
Both the agencies and the clients. Yeah, I'm being honest about it. I mean, even the well-maintained or thoroughly professional marketing organizations do not have their data in one place. Do not have the data sets rightly assembled and maintained. Because the data sets are sitting in different silos. The sales department has their own data, the CRM team has their own data, right. Media is sitting in somewhere else, insight sitting in somewhere else. So unless and until these things are sorted out first, which essentially means, in my view, the digital transformation is a prerequisite for blockchain adoption. Right. That is where the biggest challenge today is. And if you don't get our data strategy right, you might just like to say, wow, blockchain is coming and solving, giving me transparency. And you're not ready, not a chance. You're not ready, nobody is ready. Right. Okay, now, G-Man, you might be in Singapore today, but you've spent enough time in India, and you still have oversight over, say, Pepsi in India and so on. So tell me, in the Indian context, where unfortunately there have been huge delays on anything which required industry-wide consensus. Right. Measurement is one, you know it well. Thankfully, BARC is sorted, thankfully we've got IRS again. But industry-wide consensus is difficult. So how do you see those challenges for blockchain in India? Because if India screws up on this, there's a problem. It's a good question. I don't have an answer. But if we really want to get to the bottom of digital ROI, this might be the answer to it. Right. Today. And we are still now struggling to have the real ROI of social media, the real ROI of search, the real ROI of advertising, how many impressions are really working, the bot-led impressions, did the human really see it or not? If these are questions which are grappling in the industry today, and it's as much as here and anywhere else in the world. So it is coming. I genuinely believe this technology or this approach should answer these questions. One. And two is, I don't think India can stay away from this global movement on this. Some of this technology can even be run out of one country for the entire world, because all you need is
all these consensus and protocols.
Protocols, isn't it? All you need is
cleaning up your own data sets.
Yeah, that is what we should be focusing on, because network clients who have businesses everywhere else in the world might choose to say, I really want to use this across the world. Then we have to do it.
Let's close this. I want one sentence from you on why a marketer should read up on
if anybody believes that data drives creativity and data and technology is at the heart of marketing, they have to do this. It's coming.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Gautam.
Thanks.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back same time next week. See you soon.